Mike here. Hey, everybody. Welcome to my first ever podcast or video podcast or whatever the heck you want to call it. If you notice, I am not out in the garage. I'm actually in my little home office with all my guitars back there. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this or start doing this is to put up a little bit more content on the old YouTube channel, but also just to get some more interaction because things are changing a little bit, kind of the direction of stuff that I want to do, and I just do the YouTube thing for fun anyhow, so it doesn't really matter, what I'm doing, whether it's motorcycles or working on guitars or whatever that. I just kind of take you guys all along for the ride. My YouTube channel is never really specifically supposed to be just motorcycle related content, though most of it is. This, believe it or not, is actually going to be motorcycle related content, and I'm actually looking for quite a bit of feedback on this because I really don't know what I'm doing. So I got, as you've seen in some of the YouTube shorts, if you watched any of those, I recently got laid off from my job as service advisor at a Indian and Royal Enfield motorcycle dealership. And now I'll get that job back. It's a seasonal thing. I live in Michigan and it gets cold and snowy and crappy and people don't ride their bikes, so they don't take them in for service or parts or accessories or that kind of stuff, even though it's actually the perfect time to do it because it's slow in the service department, regardless of that. So I've got time here, especially now it's after the holidays, to kind of reflect on what I do, with my YouTube content and kind of what I've been doing out in the garage and just, things in general. And I've come to the realization that, I'm running to the end of some of the little projects I've been working on, even though Barney's kind of like the never ending project. But, my Indian Scout's right where I want it. My wife's Triumph Speedmaster is pretty much, ideal the way it is, other than just doing basic maintenance. We got a couple of Royal Enfield Himalayans that, for the most part, they're all kitted out. And then we've got the Hazel, the classic 350 we just got. I put some saddlebags on it and got it ready for if and when my brother-in-law wants to ride that bike. So really it's down to Barney. Barney is my project, and views wise on the YouTube channel, it doesn't get very many views, but I still put the same amount of effort to make the videos. In addition to that, I'm kind of learning how to relearning how to weld and to get better at that, and also fabricate parts and do some metalworking. But I found the need to do some other stuff, and that's kind of what this first video podcast, as it were, is all about. I decided, I've been on the fence about it for a little while, but I decided I want to get a 3D printer. In the past, I've thought 3D printers were more like toys than useful tools, and certainly not something I'd want to do for fabrication. But, there's been a couple of people on YouTube and some articles I've read about it on, websites and things like that, where I think now the 3D printer space, it's getting to the level of being almost a prosumer level of product, where it's not just something that a hobbyist uses and you're constantly fussing with the thing to get it to work, where you can just plug it in and you can use it and you can concentrate more on making parts and stuff, tools, fabricate, build whatever you need to build, and you don't need to send it off to get it, custom made by some other shop. You can do it yourself, and you don't have to have a high degree of skills. Well, for the most part, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, so I got to figure it out, and I'm going to take all of you guys along for the ride while I'm doing it. So, without further ado, let's get on with this, in fear of waffling on more about nonsense here. All right, so this is kind of the state of Barney as it is right now. This was maybe a year ago. I was playing around with this. I think this is off a Triumph Thruxton, unpainted, kind of a cafe racer fairing. And what's led me down the path of wanting to do 3D printing is, in this picture, I have made this aluminum bracket that mounts to the upper yoke clamp, and it holds a tachometer, which I've custom wired based upon the signal that goes to the coils to fire them. and it, that's where it's getting its source. It's just part of the wiring diagram that comes with it. I think these are Bike Master gauges, and a speedometer, just a simple one. These are both LED backlit, but I'm not real thrilled about how this bracket looks. And there's some leftover threaded cast pieces that are on the upper clamp or the upper yoke that I would like to utilize to make some kind of headlight nacelle that is also kind of like this little bikini fairing all in one. And to fabricate that out of metal would be a monumental pain in the ass, and it would take forever to get it done. This is what I'm talking about. And this is just sitting on the bike. It's not actually, mounted. And I was just looking at it as proof of concept, and I don't actually want the lower portion that kind of rings around the headlight, because it's a cool headlight bucket. It's a reproduction of an old CB750 bucket. And then I've got, believe it or not, it's a Moto Guzzi accessory part. It's just a headlight stone guard that just screws to the kind of the tabs that hold the side of the headlight in. So I'd really just like the upper portion of it, like the fly screen bit, if you will. So this is what it looks like without it. And you can see this area is kind of unfinished. Also, the speedo cable that you can't really see in this angle is at a pretty steep angle. And I would just like to be able to do this better. And I think this is something where I could 3D print, with some of the high strength filaments that are available, a combination, like a nacelle kind of like little fly screen that helps hide all of the wiring in the mounting bracket for the speedo and the tachometer, and then kind of give this area more of a finished look. Because it's not supposed to be a bobber. It's actually just whatever Melly and I kind of figure out that we like styling wise, that's kind of the direction Barney's going. So here's another angle. You can see there's like this threaded area here with the ignition switch. I don't know if I'm going to keep that there or not, but I would like to have that fairing here. I just kind of like the way it looks. Another area that I'm thinking that the 3D printing is going to help significantly is I have to hide the wiring for Barney somewhere. My idea here is, I've got the Springer seat combination gas tank mount, and this comes from Blue Collar Bobbers. It has a steel plate here that kind of mounts the frame. I'm thinking I would like to print some kind of 3D printed wiring tray that mounts underneath this black metal cover, and that clips into the frame and has all the provisions in it. Like I can use heated threaded inserts into the plastic, whatever plastic I end up using, that holds like the fuse block in place, the relays, all of that stuff. Maybe even the ignition switch, because I'm going to cut the wiring harness down and run it through the frame to clean it up so you don't see the wiring. And it would be nice to hide all of that in a nice finished box under here. And I thought about welding one up out of metal, and I've seen people that have done it on cafe racers. But I want something a little better than that. I want it to look like it fits there, perfectly. And I think I can 3D print this, Well, I know I can. I just got to figure it out, right? But it would look very clean. And same thing with the battery box. It would be nice to make a battery box, especially if I can get an anti-gravity lithium battery to work Barney's charging system. I can integrate all of that under the seat. It will get it completely off of the frame, and it'll be, for the most part, hidden. Very trick, and something that would be very difficult for me personally to do out of steel. This is another example here, something I could have 3D printed. Probably still would have made it from steel, but this little weird Starship Enterprise looking piece is the front mount for the rear fender, where I did a couple of nutserts into the swing arm to create this little bracket, so I have somewhere to rigidly mount the fender to the swing arm for the rear fender. This could also have easily been printed with a 3D printer, including like the chain guard. I could do a custom chain guard with a 3D print. There are engineering quality, high strength 3D printing filaments that are fuel resistant. They're strong. You can get like carbon fiber, reinforced, or glass fiber reinforced filaments that really make this possible. And I think that I'm going down the path, at least on the YouTube channel side of it of making like a 3D Moto prints playlist, or maybe it comes into being a whole new channel on its own. We'll see what happens, or if anybody even cares. But yeah, see, I can take all of this wiring here, all of this mess, run everything but the main chassis ground through the down tube because it's very large. It's easy to put the wires through it. Have it come out into a wiring box underneath this plate, and then all of this would get cleaned up, all this mess here, and I'd even, I could tuck the battery in there, and so we can really clean up the way, once I've detabbed Barney's frame and whatnot, really clean that up with just a few 3D printed parts. So it's kind of cool. I'm kind of excited about it. What the possibilities are for doing this kind of stuff with a 3D printer, because quite honestly, I've always wanted to learn new stuff, and this is something that's perplexed me. But the problem is one, I got to figure out what kind of friggin' 3D printer I want, because there's about a bazillion of them out there. I think I've got it narrowed down to at least three that I'm considering. And two, you have to learn CAD if you're going to do this kind of stuff. Yeah, you can go out and there's websites where you can download the STL files, and you can put them into your software that chops them up into like the slicer to be able to print these things out. And you can modify somebody else's file because a lot of stuff's available for free. But if you are trying to do custom things for a custom solution, especially because I'm going to use it to do fabricating on motorcycles, I need to be able to do stuff in CAD that I can't do right now because I don't know how to use CAD. I've never used it before. So, part of this is going to be my struggle to learn it, and I'm going to try and record this whole journey along the way. So when I fail epically, y'all see just how bad I am at it. And, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's interesting. We shall see. First up on my list, based upon recommendations from lots and lots and lots and lots of people that I'd asked around, is Creality printers. But before we go down the rabbit hole of looking at printers here, I do have to say I have seen enough videos. I've done at least, just a little bit of research on this to know that I need an enclosed printer that has a good control of temperature inside the printing area, because a lot of these high strength filaments need tight control on temperature. You have to print them at a high temperature, and you also have to be able to cool it off quickly so that it doesn't warp and shrink and distort and all of these things. And also so that the layer adhesion, or how well the goop that squirts out the end of the 3D print head, sticks together. And that's going to be pretty important, because there's some of the stuff I want to try with this. I will never print anything on a 3D printer where safety is involved. I gotta say that. Maybe light housings or stuff like that, maybe something for an indicator, but I would never do something like a brake lever or a clutch lever, because I don't want to run the risk of it breaking and creating a safety hazard for myself. But things that hold stuff and cosmetic things, certainly that's within the realm of printing this stuff up. And who knows what kind of filaments that come out in the future. So Creality was like one of the first brands that was recommended to me by a couple of my friends. And it looks like, there's these different K1s, but what's confusing is you've got a K1C, you've got a K1 3D, you got a K1 Max AI, a K2 Plus. There's 1,000 different videos out there that tell you what all the differences are. But when I've been looking into this, it doesn't always meet my requirements for what I want to do with it. A lot of times when they're doing, reviews of these things, they're printing benchies, which are these little goofy looking tugboat things. And again, it's a printing a toy. Well, I want to see how well it does if you print some kind of clamp or like some kind of tool that's useful. Because I don't want to make toys. I'm sure I'll make some kind of parts and, things that I could use to repair stuff, useful like organizational stuff. There's plenty of toolbox organizers and stuff like that people print out all the time. So the only downside, I think, that the Creality printers is mainly because the software while it's better than it has been in the past, I think the Creality printers fall into the category of it's still more of a hobbyist thing than it is to just like a, I don't have to know how my inkjet printer works to be able to print on it or to scan something with it. In this case, like, sometimes it's too much for a guy like me just getting into it, but wanting to have I would rather spend more time with the CAD and make better models in the 3D environment than spending figuring out how to fix issues or how to tinker around with or modify my 3D printer, because I don't want the printing to be a hobby. I just want it to be a tool. Um, the second one is another one that was recommended by a friend of mine who just got one of these. It's a Flash Forge, and they've got several models. One of these that's really interesting is this one here, which is like, what is it? Flash Forge Guider 3 Ultra. Sorry, I gotta use my glasses and read this. But I mean, the thing about Flash Forge is some of these 3D printers you can print extremely tall things, large volume items without having to glue them together out of multiple pieces to make something that you're trying to print up. Uh, the other thing is prices. All the ones I've been looking at are around the similar prices. When I look at this Adventure Pro here, and I don't think they have the ability to print multiple colors without like some third-party attachment. Because I know the Creality, one of the things it's got going for it, like on this new K2, even though it's $1,200, it's a bit steep. I don't plan on buying. It's too much money for me. It does have the ability to put multiple spools of filament in there, and they don't have to be multiple colors. If you think about it, you can have two of the same spool. So if you're printing a large volume of stuff, you run out, it'll go to the other spool and keep printing. So you don't have to stop your print and then swap out spools of filament. You can also insert different types of filament into the print. Like, let's say you're putting a joint between two parts that needs to be flexible. You can change the filament to the rubbery stuff. Again, I'm learning this stuff myself, so that you can have different engineering properties within the same 3D print that you're putting together. So I kind of want to have one of these multi-spool systems to feed through the 3D printer. It just makes it very convenient. These things take forever to print as it is. I don't want to have to spend extra time stopping the print, going to get a different spool, different material, color, and throwing it in the machine, where I can just have it switch automatically. Again, the analogy with my inkjet printer, I don't have to go into that thing and pull, unload one cartridge of black to load in a cartridge of red or cyan or whatever color you need in order to keep printing. They're all there. You can just use it. So the one I'm leaning most towards here is Bamboo Labs, mainly because, like, for all my creative stuff and also things that I do for my YouTube channel, excuse me, I do primarily on a Macintosh. I have a M1 Mac Mini that's a couple years old now. And I think from everything I've seen and read, the Bamboo series of printers and their software, I know it's kind of a closed ecosystem, but I don't really care. I just want it to work. I think this is the way I'm going to go. So I'm kind of eyeballing this guy here, the P1S, because it's significantly cheaper than $1,200, and they've got a combo deal going on right now for $799, where I can get it with what they call an AMS, which is their kind of multiple material handling system. What do they call that thing? Yeah, multicolor combo unit. So here's your benchy that I was talking about. There have been a lot of YouTube videos I have looked at on all of these. I've spent probably way more hours looking into it than I thought I was going to, and then only to get more confused. But I'm pretty sure that's the one I'm going to go with, this guy right here, with the AMS unit as a combo. Now, luckily for me, the local micro center actually sells these units. They stock them normally. They are a Bamboo Lab dealer, so I don't have to wait to order one in. They've actually got them in stock. If you order it direct from manufacturer, at least for Micro Center to these, there's no difference in price. Even on the combo deal, it's still $7.99. So that's kind of cool. These are some examples I've seen in, like, just a short Google image search. Somebody was making a cafe racer fairing, and I don't know if that's the finished part or if they're just using it as a layup for fiberglass. Um, Now there's a guy on. There's a couple of people on YouTube. Actually, we should just look at that while I'm here. Let's. So, Super Fast Matt here has a really cool YouTube channel, and he finally, like 3 months ago, incidentally, he's looking at a Creality, or not a Creality, but a Bamboo Labs 3D printer, where he talks about things that he's printed. I don't want to click on this to play the video because I don't know how YouTube's going to gank me on the copyrights, but he's 3D printed parts for multiple projects that are extremely useful, and it's not printing toys. He's done tools and things like that. It's a cool video, more of a nerd engineer kind of thing, which fits, what I want to use it for a lot closer. But then there's also Thunderhead 289 lawnmower carburetor. Let's see. So, this guy, I think he's in Iowa. It's Thunderhead 289. Luke, I believe is his name. He has, I think it's a Predator carburetor on a 302 in an old Ford Maverick, and he got it to work. But what's interesting here is he made his own intake manifold adapter and air cleaner assembly with a 3D printer because the engineering filaments are good enough to stand up to the fuel and the heat of being inside a car engine bay. And he rode this thing on Hot Rod Power, or drove this thing on Hot Rod Power Tour. Now, granted, the car wasn't going to win any speed races, but it's just insane what you can do with a 3D printer at home. And this is kind of the thing I'm thinking about, right? So even if you look on YouTube for just 3D printed motorcycle parts, there's a ton of content out there where people have done just that. Whether it's a simple, this video here from Two Wheelin', they printed up just a license plate light holder because it got broken. There's a couple of people that have done tail tidies, or what they call fender eliminators, for their motorcycles, and these are perfectly reasonable things to print, using a 3D printer, that are useful items, that they're not just toys. That's what I'm looking for. So when it comes to learning CAD, a couple of things I've been looking at here, and I mean, there's so many options, it's hard to keep track of all of it, but one of the things I've been looking at has been Fusion 360. Now I know you can try to use Blender and save. There are plugins for Blender to be able to save things as STL files, but Blender again is not a parametric 3D design tool. It's more for art and that kind of thing. So Autodesk Fusion 360 is one of the things people have recommended. You can get a free hobbyist, license. You do have to install this on your computer, and it has to run in the background with the internet connection. So you're installing software and your internet connection. And the free version's a little limited on what it'll do, but it'll do everything from what I've been, researching. It'll do everything I need it to do to make my files for 3D models to be able to print stuff. The other thing that I was thinking about is FreeCAD. Now, keep in mind, I've never used CAD before, so I have no idea what's good, what's bad, or what's going to be hard for me to learn. I do think from some of the YouTube videos and some information I've read about FreeCAD, it might be a little too simplified to do what I want to do with it. As far as how it works, like, I think most CAD programs work similarly. To my understanding is, like, you're using like boxes and spheres, and curves that you spin along an axis to make some kind of cylinder that you can deform, and then define parameters, and you can merge these things together and kind of cut out the pieces you need and what you don't need. So to me, it's almost like doing modeling with clay, using basic shapes, but doing it digitally in a computer. But again, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done it before. So I guess I'm going to find out. Now, the one program that has been recommended to me by friends of mine has been Onshape. Now, Onshape's kind of cool because it's just as powerful as like Fusion 360 and some of these other CAD programs, but it runs on the web. It runs on their servers. So you really just have a web interface and you're using the application remotely. And the benefit to that is you can collaborate and share on files and projects and whatnot. So if I design something like, let's say, for an Indian Scout, and I need help on it, I can share the link and other people can go in there, and I can give permissions for certain things in the project so you can't accidentally delete my stuff. But, I can have, like on the YouTube channel, if there are other people that are into CAD and 3D printing, they could help to design something, and it can become a community project with collaboration. And anything that I design in CAD, I'm going to just post up to one of the numerous websites that are out there that host things like Thingiverse, and I know Bamboo Labs has their own like repository for STL files. There are dozens of them out there, and anything that I do for the motorcycle side of it's pretty much going to be free. And people can take and modify them. I don't plan on selling the files or the 3D prints. I don't want to run a print farm. I'd rather just use it for fun, make content for my YouTube channel here, and not have to worry about packaging crap, sending it out, keeping track of whether or not somebody swiped a design, because I don't care. I'd rather just do it for fun. This whole thing is supposed to be for fun. So I think if I learn Onshape, I'm leaning pretty heavily towards Onshape. Then I've got a couple of friends I can ask for help, and also just like all of these CAD programs, FreeCAD, Fusion 360, Onshape, there's a ton of video support on YouTube and within this company's own website, tutorials on how to use it. So hopefully, a knuckle dragging friggin' wrench slinging dude like myself can figure this out. I guess you can teach old dogs new tricks after all. So going forward into the future, I would like to be able to do more video podcasts, and I would like it to be, as opposed to just being a playlist on my main channel, maybe it becomes its own channel. But I would like to host it on actual podcast applications, so that if you're using Spotify or whatever it is, Apple Music, I guess they don't call it iTunes anymore, then you can just subscribe to the RSS feed, and then automatically you get the new episodes as they come out. Then you don't have to view it on YouTube all the time, but you can just hear the audio, especially if I can do discussions and stuff like that. I'm learning all this stuff, so I'd like to be able to do more with it, and I think I'm going to put the effort into figuring it out. But so one of those things is like this thing called Podbeam. They're a hosting service that's supposed to be for free for amateur users, to be able to host up, your video podcast or your audio podcast. And I'm sure there are other ones, but for the most part, I need to look into something like that, or I might just post them up as a playlist on my YouTube channel and just keep it simple, stupid, the old KISS principle. All right, well, that'll do it for this video. If you could, please give me a thumbs up and like and hit the bell notifications and subscribe and all that fun stuff that I always tell you to tell people. I think you all know that already. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. Appreciate you watching. By all means, drop a comment down below. Give me some suggestions for 3D printers. Keep in mind, I'm trying to use these for, printing like carbon fiber filaments and glass fiber reinforced filaments, things like, things that you need an enclosed printer for. And I also don't want to spend like thousands of dollars on this thing either. Also, what are some ideas for CAD programs? Because those are 3 examples I showed are not the only CAD software that is out there. There's a lot. But, like I said, I'm kind of heavily leaning towards Onshape. And then, heck, if any of you have done podcasting, video podcasting, that kind of thing, and have some suggestions for, what's a good software platform to use, especially since it's going to pretty much have to be free. I ain't made of money, right? I don't think anybody else is anymore, anyhow. But yeah, drop all those comments down below. Keep me up to date. Let me know what's going on with it. And then probably going to do, here's another question I'm going to ask you guys out there. Let me know if you, because I'm thinking about just doing these things as a playlist instead of trying to monetize another YouTube channel for 3D moto prints. I think I'm just going to do 3D printer stuff for the motorcycle related on its own playlist within my regular channel. I don't see any reason why not to do it that way. But yeah, if you guys think it's better for it to be a separate channel versus just a playlist within my main channel, again, drop a comment, give me some, ideas why, or, I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate everybody watching, and until I see everybody again, have fun, ride safe, Happy New Year. It's 2025, and I'll see everybody again.